take back control of our society. Today's world requires an open and honest discussion about the current events. On the Smoking Glass Hour with Beer and Glass, our goal is to engage people from different walks of life into a healthy discussion, creating a positive outcome. When it comes to global events, tune in to the Smoking Glass Hour with Beer and Glass on Monday nights at 7:30. We don't just listen to the news, we bring you the news.
We can be most effective when we are engaged in the political process, and there's no time like the present. One of our main goals is effective advocacy through active participation from you. Those who stand for nothing will fall for anything. Our efforts to keep you engaged and informed as to the importance of current events happening locally and abroad started 2 years ago. Our number one goal is to make a difference. We need you. Join us at the Smoking Glass Hour with Baron Glass.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Smoking Glass Hour with Beer and Glass. We are honored to have you as a guest tonight and want to thank each of you for your faithful support. Without further delay, allow me to introduce to you Mr. Baron Glass. Mr. Glass, take it away.
Engaged in the political process. Active participation, and no better time than now. Our number one goal is simply to make a difference. Tonight, Thursday, June the 16th, 2016, Glassology 101 with A.F. Riggins. We're going to talk about gun rights, a history lesson, doing the right thing, but specifically for the wrong reason. How did the Second Amendment come to fruition? What was its intention? Has America been lying about the Second Amendment to its citizens of the United States? From a historian's point of view, I want you to just sit back and have an open mind and listen to what this historian, A.F. Riggins, is going to talk about tonight. Monday night we talked about, has America become a breeding ground for mass shootings? We had people from the coast of California to the shore of Maine, from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the North to the South, representing and allowing people to understand that they have a voice and they want that voice to be heard. You see, this particular gun issue, this particular Second Amendment has become a long time issue that many have been afraid to get involved. You see, unlike, once again, mainstream media, our number one goal is not to distort the message and divide the people. If you heard me forestate, I said that our number one goal is simply this: to make a difference. And we feel that when we bring you balanced information that you can discern on your own, you will be able to make a conscious decision as to what, when, where, and how you would like to look at information. Once again tonight, I'm not sure if Dave Lamont is going to be out there. I know he told me that he was going to get with me. He had a prior engagement with his wife. I know Aaron Hopkins is out there kind of caught up in traffic and doing a little odds and ends, so I know he's out there listening. I know that Vanessa from Houston, Texas is out there. I know that Paula out there from Missouri is out there. I'm not sure if Nikki will be on tonight, but I do know this. I do know that A.F. Riggins is out there ready to give us a lesson. And once again, I want to make sure that everybody pays attention. I know that Larry Bell out there from Montgomery, Louisiana. I know that Columbia, Louisiana is represented by some callers that's out there, Lorraine Legg, Betty, and a lot of other people that's out there listening. So what I want to make sure is this, is that you open your mind. I mean, I know Bernie Sanders is out there doing his speech, speaking to millions of people, but we've heard enough of Bernie. We've heard enough of Hillary. We've heard enough of Donald. We need to hear from the people sometime, because that's the problem. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to go ahead on and bring A.F. Riggins in. A.F., how you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing fine, brother. I'm doing very good. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'll tell you, Riggins, I know that your day has been hectic. I know that you've had a lot of stuff going on, but one thing I know about you, when you are asked to do a task, you make sure that the information that you're given is very forthcoming, is very honest, and it has been very much fact-checked. And fact-check meaning tonight is that you are a historian by your profession, working on your doctorate degree. Not just your doctorate degree, but you also have an obligation based on the cloth, a minister, to tell a neighbor, tell a friend, and also tell the truth. Pastor Riggins, I'm going to turn it over to you. I want your voice to be heard. I want all our callers out there voice to be heard. I want all across America to be heard. We're going to talk tonight about gun rights, a history lesson, doing the right thing for the wrong reason. A.F. Riggins.
Thank you, Aaron, and I always thank you for the opportunity to share here on Glass Hour. And you and I were talking a couple of nights ago about London, which I was not able to be part of. And we began to talk about the fact that the Second Amendment right is a big issue right now.
Hey, Riggins. Before you go any further, I don't know if you're moving, but you kind of fluttering in and out, and I want to make sure that everybody can hear every word that you're saying, so this lesson that you're teaching tonight can be heard loud and clear. So if you need a moment to make adjustments, let me know, and I'll prolong, but I want to make sure that you hit the nail on the head tonight. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
I'm clear now.
Yes, sir. You're clear.
Okay. I apologize. Yes, I was saying that the other night you all had the discussion on Monday about the gun rights, pursuant to the fact that we had the shooting in Orlando over the weekend, and you and I were discussing this, and throughout the discussion we got to this point we're going to talk about tonight. One of the things that we were talking about that was brought up that night also, that the original reason for the gun rights law had nothing to do with really citizens just having a right to own a gun, but it had a lot to do with slavery. I think that came out that night. And I just wanted to kind of to bear down on that for a few minutes and go into history about why the Second Amendment has been such a big issue with the United States. If you notice, it says Second Amendment, so it wasn't originally in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
The first 10 amendments of the Constitution were not there. When the fathers wrote the Constitution out, there were two groups of people: the Federalists and Anti-Federalists. The Federalists wanted a strong central government. The Anti-Federalists wanted a weaker central government, wanted to give more rights to the people. Speaking demographics. Speaking demographics, most of the Federalists were the men from the Alexander Hamilton, guys from Boston, like John Adams and guys like that. The Anti-Federalists were people like Thomas Jefferson and guys that were farmers, that were slave owners. They were from the South. And so the Anti-Federalists said to the Federalists, we need some amendments to this Constitution. Many people won't be able to control the government if you give us our free speech, freedom of religion, freedom to petition, freedom to assembly. At the same time, they said we need some other amendments. And one other amendment they wanted was that we want freedom to have rights to own our guns. A lot of folks thought that the reason why they wanted to fight on the guns was because of the fact they wanted to be able to protect themselves because of the war. But it was more to it than that. In the Constitution, one of the ways they looked at putting together the House of Representatives and the Senate was representation by population in the House of Representatives. The slave owners said, listen, we should have great representation because we have the most people in our state, have slaves. and we said, wait a minute, no, if that happens, you're going to have more power than us. So the slaves, as a person, slaves counted as 3/5 of the person. But every 5 slaves equals 3. Every 5 is equal to 3.
Hey, Pastor Riggins. You still kind of got a little breakup. And again, because this is so important, because this is very well put together, I want to give you the opportunity to do a little movement. I'm not sure exactly what your mechanism is, but again, I'm doing it for the purpose of making sure that we continue to do what we've been doing, which is to be fair and balanced and allow them to be able to hear. I just got a message that said that on their end, it felt like the phone line may have been breaking up. So I'm gonna just kind of feed with me a little bit.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, I'm in my house and I'm talking, but however, sometimes some places in my house, I guess
that's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
I'm outside now. So I'm outside, so it might be a little bit better. So what I was saying was that when these slave owners, when these Southern people, Thomas Jefferson and the whole group we call anti-federalists, there's some background noise coming from somewhere, but it's not my line. I don't know what it is. Let me take my earphones out. Let me see if that might. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay, now. Okay, we'll do that then. So when the anti-federalists looked at the Constitution, they said we want some rights in here. And one of the rights they said we want freedom of speech, freedom of religion, right to petition, right to assembly. At the same time, when it came down to representing themselves, they were going to have the greater representation because they had the most population because they had all these slaves. And so the people in the North says, no, wait a minute, y'all not going to have the greatest representation. What we're going to do is we're going to give you, for every 5 slaves, you're going to count for 3 people. For every 5 slaves, it'll count for 3 people. And so that's called the 3/5 Amendment. So then slaves became property. We were not human beings. I want you to understand this. Not counted as human beings. We were counted as property, like a cow, like a horse, like a chair.
So Pastor,
like
are you saying that there was no value to a human life?
That's right.
Okay, go ahead.
Right. That's why you watch Roots and the remake of Roots and watch all these slave movies, you see the way a slave was being treated because there was no value to human life. You were property. You just good as a good cow, a good bull, a good horse. I mean, that's why he can take you out and get you to go breed, which means sing around the other plantations to make babies, and but I'm digressing on that. But
go ahead.
Based on that, they said, listen here, Second Amendment, we need a right to own a gun for 2 reasons. Number one, we need to protect our property, which means I need to protect myself from a slave uprising. I don't need these slaves to uprise because there's more. Every plantation, a plantation had to have 20 slaves to be a plantation. So if you have a husband and wife, have a few kids, have a couple of overseers, and then you have 20 to 50 slaves, you outnumbered. So the only way to keep these slaves in order, besides using the mineral, the mineral control, or using the things they learned from Willie Litch and all those kind of things like that, the mineral control. Another way is to listen. We gun on you. So the overseer ride around with a gun in his hand. Everybody, all the slave owners, all of they have guns, so that's to protect their property. So the Second Amendment was we have the right to bear arms. So in case we have a slave uprising, you say, Pastor, how's that true? Show me in history. It might sound like a good theory, but show me in history. So let's fast forward to 1800. This is what made the slave rebellion such a big problem. Nat Turner and his followers got his hand on some guns and started rebellion. And man, they went crazy. They went berserk. Man, that's why they hung Nat Turner and all them guys. Because why? You got no business getting your hand on any guns to have a slave uprising. So they got on some more. John Brown, an Anglo man who was an abolitionist and said, I want to help these slaves get free. He started trying to have a slave uprising, and what did he get hung for? He got hung or got shot for it. They went to a federal arson to try to steal guns and weapons to give to the slaves for uprising. So the right to bear arms has always had something behind it more sinister than what you believe it to have. So let's go farther into history. So now, 2 things that happen. Number one, you get after the Civil War, when they had the radical Reconstruction, in which was giving the black all these, rights and Freeman's Bureau and black people getting elected to senators and congressmen and everything. Who rose up against it? The KKK. Who was the KKK? folk that live in your neighborhood that do not want you, us to have our rights and freedoms, and want to enact Jim Crow laws, but they want to put a hood on their face so you wouldn't see who they were. And they went, what? They need to have a right to have guns to keep the people in order, to keep us down on the level that we want to be kept, on the level we need to be kept. Come out to the Wild Wild West, as they called it. They called the Wild Wild West for one reason. Why? Because everybody around was totally carrying a gun, and the way you handle every dispute, almost, was whoever can pull the fastest and shoot somebody. And so, when they say we want these Second Amendment rights because we want to protect ourselves against terrorists, we want our Second Amendment rights so we can protect ourselves against folks that go, no. That is an afterthought. That Second Amendment right has always been there so that the people of the greater authority, the greater control, can always have the weapon to keep those who were less than or thought of less than or minorities, or those who want to be out of their place, put them back in their place because they had the weapons, they had the guns. Mm-hmm. That's how I look at the Second Amendment. It never had a good reason for it from the beginning. Mm-hmm. It's all right. I own 6 guns, four rifles and 2 shotguns. I understand. I own all that. But why do I need an AR-15? Because I don't need that for what? That's for man against man. That's not man against a beast. Mm-hmm. See, I use a 30-06 to shoot a deer. I use a 22 to shoot a rabbit. I use a 20 gauge or 16 gauge to shoot a duck or a rabbit or something. But why do I need an AR-15? That's because now I've crossed over to it's man against man. Mm-hmm. That's the whole concept of they've always had wanted their guns to write down their guns. They can use it to intimidate or to control, or even if they need to kill another person, even though that person was not worthy to be killed. But I was saying that's the history lesson and what I say about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Pastor, from that historical standpoint, how has well, let me back up. What grade would you give America when it comes to being forthcoming about the Second Amendment itself? Passing grade or failing grade?
Oh, failing grade.
Mm-hmm.
And
it
only comes home to them when a lot of them get killed and then they get upset about it. But then if you notice, they get upset about it, but they don't ever want to move on because they know they don't want to let go of the real motive of why they want to have right to own guns.
Mm-hmm. So the right to own guns, the right to own that, and if you look at the right to own gun when the Constitution was written, and we know that in the original documentation it said all, but it was very much exclusive of all. Women were not included, and people of color were not included. So was the original intent of the Second Amendment for those 2 particular groups to own guns?
Maybe women, because women were considered human beings that just couldn't vote. Mm-hmm. But definitely not African Americans, because we're not citizens. Mm-hmm. Dred Scott case. Dred Scott lived in a slave state. He moved to two free territories, and as part of the Missouri Compromise, once he moved there, he's supposed to be free. Mm-hmm. Came back down, they put him back in slavery. He went to court. They said, Dred Scott, you cannot sue for your freedom because you are a slave. You're an African American. You are not a citizen. You're a property. So in the Constitution, it's talking about all citizens. African Americans were not citizens then. Mm-hmm. America did not get their citizenship to the 14th Amendment, which is 1865. Constitution 1787. Mm-hmm.
So
become citizens in 18. So they were not thinking of us.
Right. So let's jump over a century plus to 2016. What position should those who were not included back during that documentation, in your opinion, from a historical standpoint, what position should that group of people be taking?
Well, I think whatever rights that all citizens are supposed to have, we should enjoy them. So we're supposed to have a right to own a gun. We should have the right to own a gun. But I think at the same time, there should be some regulation of what kind of guns we have and how we operate with guns. Mm-hmm. See, two things. Number one, the assault ban by Clinton in 1994 put the assault ban in. Assault weapon ban. And when Bush came in, what Bush did was took the assault weapons ban off the records and said, if y'all afraid of people getting these guns, assault weapons, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do 3 strikes, you're out in the crime law. so that these booger bears, which would be us, and he didn't use that terminology, I'm using that terminology, these bad folk, which we were looking at the African Americans mostly, who's the ones going to prison by a greater proportion, we'll keep them locked up. So if y'all worried about them with their hands on assault weapons, but then everybody have a right to get assault weapons, but who gets it the most by a greater proportion? Who buys assault weapons by a greater proportion? It's not African Americans. Matter of fact, African Americans get a lot of guns off the streets. And what we get off the streets are a lot of times them little handguns, pistols, 38 specials, 22 long guns, a 9mm Glock, stuff like that. The kids getting that stuff illegally, on the black market. They're not running around getting assault weapons. So even going forward, I would say that there needs to be a regulation. What do you need assault weapons for? What do we need it for? Except to shoot a human being. Except to shoot a human being. And if we go to the point where we have to settle stuff by guns instead of by the court and by law and by love and by religion, but we have to sell it by guns, come on, we're in a world of trouble.
Well,
we're in a world of trouble if we got to sell it by shooting each other with 100 bullets per minute? Come on. What are we doing? What are we doing when we do that? So then also about ammunition. If you're going to own something like that, why are they selling you 1,000 rounds at a time?
Well, Pastor, the other night, several of the callers and participants, they indicated, which we didn't advocate that and we're still not, that you dismantle the entire premise of the Second Amendment. Several people advocated that, from male, female, white, black, whatever the case may be, from different parts of the country. Even Dave Lamont, who so eloquently spoke on it, kind of took that position, but it didn't matter to him either way. When you look at this from being a gun owner and a historian, along with a supporter of equal rights or rights that are afforded to us under the Constitution, how do you look at the Second Amendment as being revamped, dismantled? What's your position on that, Pastor?
It needs to be. It's not to dismantle it. You just need to modify it. It needs to be modified. It needs to be modified. The only way you can modify an amendment is to make another amendment. In other words, what happens is, you notice in the Constitution, any new amendment that will come in, like, for instance, when they took the voting rights, voting age from 21 to 18, well, then they bring a new amendment and say, okay, now voting rights, voting age, the right to vote at 18 instead of 21, which is the Constitution, the 29th Amendment, and you have to write another amendment to actually modify the Second Amendment. But then I would think that it would be, you'd have to put stuff like in hunting guns for hunting purposes. Put the guns in the class, like a certain class. You need to own maybe one handgun or 10 guns, which would be maybe a class A gun or whatever. I'm just making up, different classes. So many hunting guns you can have, so many hunting guns. Like right now, I go right now over 4 or 5 days, I buy about 10 guns, and nobody ain't gonna stop. You know what I'm saying? I can buy me a 30-06 today, and then wait next day, go buy me a 22. Next day, go buy me a handgun. Next day, go buy me a 30-30. And then if I want to, go ahead and open the new store, go buy me an AR-15. So there ought to be so many guns you can buy on so many class, so much of a time. That's registered in your name. And then there ought to be some more strict regulations. If there's mental illness, alcoholism ought to be, if you have so many DWIs, you drink on a regular basis, what you doing with a lot of guns? You see stuff like that, which people gonna say it's radical. Well, I don't want to do it all together, but it needs to be regulated a lot, a whole lot.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I know that Vanessa is out there. Vanessa, if you're out there, you heard what A.F. Riggins just talked about. You were on the other night, and you basically kind of looked at some of the information that we discussed earlier by way of some wanted to dismantle, some wanted to revamp, and some wanted to, just eliminate it as a whole because they felt like, guns have become a major problem, and absent of guns, that would eliminate some of those problems. So, Vanessa, based on what A.F. Riggins have talked about with the history lesson and doing the right thing, but ultimately for the wrong reason. What's your position on that now?
He's absolutely right. And I want to quote this guy. He's a constitutional law professor. And he says that it, being the Second Amendment, needs to be repealed because it is outdated, a threat to liberty, and a suicide pact. Now, this is coming from a constitutional law professor. And they're saying that the people who actually did the Constitution, they were flawed men, and there are a lot of flaws in the Constitution. Some of them have been corrected, some of them haven't. So Pastor Riggins is right, as far as us being kind of like hoodwinked about what the Second Amendment is really all about. Because it was like he said, it was designed to stop slave uprisings and Indian uprisings. It was never meant for, but they changed one word from country to state, giving the state power to say, okay, yeah, we can do this. So, it's just so many things that do it. It is outdated. I told you that earlier today, that it's a piece of parchment that I hate to say it, but it is very outdated. Mm-hmm. It was meant for the people that wrote it, that signed it, and it was meant for that time. I'll never believe that the Constitution was meant to go this far, and they can never, repeat anything on it. They can't ever update anything on it. And we're still listed as poverty.
So you is your position, and this is a question, and I'll let you answer it yourself, is your position that it was something done for the right reason, but done for the wrong, it was done for the wrong reason. I'll just be very blunt, for the wrong reason, which was to protect those who had been former slave owners, now that freedom exists, to protect from those in fear of retaliation or something like that. Is that your position?
Yeah. It was for the exact wrong reason, yeah.
So with that reason alone, is that why your contention is that it is flawed, 100% flawed, and really needs to be looked at 200 years plus later, or however long it's been, and I'm using that as an example, but for the length of time that has been in place, you feel that now is the time, 2016, to relook at this particular amendment and basically revamp it to fit modern day America, which would actually make look like or appear to be a better position or a better statement from this particular country.
Yeah, it needs to be repealed. Mm-hmm. It needs to be outdated. It needs to be, I'm with Ontario. It actually needed to be eliminated.
Mm-hmm. Right, and I know that Ontario the other night, along with Dave Lamont and many others, took that position that it should be eliminated, and they were able to convincingly, with conviction, to say that. And Ontario gave some very good points. He's not on tonight out of Little Rock, Arkansas, because he's at a gala event tonight, but he wanted to let us know that his blessings were with us, because it was something that was dear to his heart. He looked at the streets of Chicago, the streets of Detroit, Michigan, Flint, where you hail from, all of those shootings, all of those guns that are being handled by convicted felons, bought off the black market, so forth and so on. So what is it that we the people need to do to get Congress, because the NRA obviously is a powerful organization? What do we need to do to play a better role?
We need to get way more involved, way more vocal, if we have to take it all the way to the White House. Because it's out of control. Because like I said the other night, America has a romance with guns. I like guns. I don't own one, and I've never had any problem with a gun, but like they saying, these assault weapons, these guns are not for protection. You're not protecting anybody with the AR-15. You're out to kill somebody. I mean, really, a bunch of people at one time. It's not like you're protecting your house.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I understand people are afraid because the bad guys, they always say, well, the bad guys got guns, and the NRA believes the only way to combat that is a good guy with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's ridiculous. There shouldn't be guns, really, period. All these other countries are living without them. We're the only ones that seem to have them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let me throw this, Pastor Riggins. These assault rifles. I saw somewhere today while I was reading that the original maker of the AR-15 or the assault rifle, family basically indicated that the original maker would be highly upset, and I'm paraphrasing, that these guns are now in the hands of civilians when in fact the intent was to be for military. Do you agree or disagree with that?
I agree with it, brother. Here's what happened. You remember back in 7 years later, the first one before the Civil War, to interchangeable parts. The way he did interchangeable parts was, and along with Eli Whitney, who did the cotton gin, what they did was they made, and some coke too. They made guns, which if you take one gun apart and put all the parts back together, they all go back and interchangeable, and they were used for the military. Those were made for the military. Colt rifle, the Colt pistol, and all that stuff was made for the military back then. Every major gun maker back then was making it for the military, and then citizens would get them and own them. So the same idea with AR-15. That guy made it for the military. For maybe the National Guard to use, or for protection for the police force to use.
Mm-hmm.
But there we are now. The citizens got our hands on them, and people. I'm gonna go pretty political right now. Folk want to holler about what happened with the Clintons and and the super predators and all that stuff. But man, the biggest problem that happened was when there was George W. Bush, who of course was from Texas, and a gun on and a hunter. And I think Dick Cheney, was it Dick Cheney that shot somebody in the butt out there trying to hunt doves or something?
Mm-hmm. Somebody shot Dick.
Yeah, right. Right. And so what happened was he came in and took away that assault rifle van. George W. Bush took it away, and that was not right. This was not right at any level. At no level was that right. I mean, I know, I don't. That's just no reason for a person, as the young lady said a while ago, assault rifle.
Hey, Pastor, you kind of fading in and out again. But I think you said that there's no reason for a civilian to have an assault rifle. Yeah, and once again, you personally are a gun owner that own multiple guns. You hunt for recreational purposes, and you feel based on what has happened up until now that there needs to be some reconstruction when it comes to this particular amendment, the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, regarding these assault rifles and things like that being out on the black market, and individuals that are convicted felons who have no earthly value of having a gun. You feel like there should be some further restrictions, or the restrictions that are on the books need to be enforced a little bit more, right?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
So,
sure.
Pastor, from a historical standpoint, you've been a historian by profession, been in the classroom for at least maybe 20 plus years. Do you look at this as being something that's flawed, and if we don't deal with the flawed aspect of it, it could ultimately be close to a demise for this particular country?
Yeah, yes, it can be. It can be. I'm going to say something, and all being truthful to the situation, too. When that guy went in with that assault rifle, shooting like that, and the police decided to engage him, and then they were having a gun battle, assault rifle against that assault rifle. Someone mentioned this on Sunday, but nobody else has never followed up on it. Some of those victims might have died from friendly fire to police.
Say that again, Pastor.
One person mentioned this on Sunday, on the one interview, and nobody else followed up on it. Some of those individuals in there, might have died from friendly fire to police.
Mm-hmm.
So see what happened when they engaged him. The first guy engaged him was outnumbered. He went and got backup. And before that, that's what got the guy pushed into the restroom. He had a gunfight with the police and with all those people. Assault rifle on assault rifle. A bullet has no name. A bullet has no name.
So, Pastor,
bullet has no name.
So if friendly fire ended up happening at the hands of those in blue, is that just as worse as the individual with the assault rifle killing an innocent person?
Yeah, you're right. But they're going to still blame it on him because they're going to say, even if they're probably not even going to go try to find out through the autopsies, like what bullet did who, what type of bullet was it, a bullet that was, that was registered to a cop's gun or to his gun. So they're going to say that whether one of his bullets actually killed somebody, they're going to say his whole act of doing that caused all the people to die anyway. You know what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Like, if I went into a place to do this and the police engaged me, and then in the middle of me shooting out with them, and some people get shot by some of my bullets, some of their bullets, it's still going to be the blame on Riggins because Riggins is going to shoot people. So, but I'm just bringing out the idea of the fact that they have to have assault. The fact that he had an assault weapon, because without assault weapon, the guy that's got a regular pistol or a regular little gun or whatever, you don't take a gunfight like that. Just take one or two cops shooting him and he's down. Like if I'm in the street acting a fool in my car and walk out with a pistol or with a knife, they're gonna load it into him and be dead. If I come out fighting the guys with the cops with assault weapon, we're gonna be like we're in a war zone. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Right.
We got Aaron Hopkins out on the line now. I know Aaron very easy to catch up and pick up on what we're talking about. Aaron, tonight we're talking about, and by the way, Aaron hails from Dallas, Texas. We're talking about the Second Amendment, how did it come to fruition. We're talking about gun rights, which we talked about on Monday night, a history lesson, doing the right thing for the wrong reason. Pastor Riggins basically told us how this thing came about, what was the original intent. Vanessa has basically indicated that the document is flawed, is outdated. The specific intent has absolutely nothing to do with today's world. Aaron, piggybacking on what we talked about on Monday night, has America become a breeding ground for mass shootings? How do you put this in perspective from where you sit and what you see?
You know what, man? I did get a chance to hear some of what Pastor Riggins said, and I heard Vanessa's response, and I heard your question. And it just dawned on me, the document itself is flawed because of the people that drafted it on with the intentions of using it for their own benefit. So the more I think about it, in a revision and or an additional amendment, we would still at some point arrive at the same result. So I like what Vanessa just said in terms of involvement in anything going forward. The people who are the most affected by something in terms of a constitution have to have a hand in the draft of it, because what we're talking about is not the document itself, it's the execution and the administration of the document and its content. So as long as the same type of people with the same type of mentality are allowed to execute a constitution, we'll find ourselves always arriving at the same conclusion. So I like the fact in what Pastor Riggins gave us, and I like I really I agree 100% with Vanessa in unless the people, which a democracy is supposed to be of the people and by the people, unless the people really understand, they can't idly sit by and let people who will always use or misuse something like the Constitution to gain their own benefit, unless we become of the mind that we have to be hands-on at all times. We can't take that position anymore, just sitting back and trusting until things are on a level where all playing fields are level. People are actually not just wanting to be treated equally, they're actually, for the most part, they're involved and they're responsible for their own well-being and being treated equally because they're now engaged. I think we've sat back too long, man, with the type of politics we're witnessing now. now we see that when we allow people to not just say what their intentions are, they actually are able to do it kind of behind the scenes, behind closed doors, and we always have to sit back and wonder what they're going to do next. I don't think we should expect anything different if we continue to allow that to happen.
So, Aaron, I think I heard you say that the document itself is flawed. The people who drafted the document is flawed. And if we, even if we create another amendment or add an addendum to this with the same types of people, with the same types of mentality, we're going to arrive at the same point. What you're saying is that in order to get this particular document further away from being flawed to a better position of perfection, and when I say perfection, I'm not talking about perfect, I'm talking about something better than the original document. You're saying that there has to be other people at the table making these decisions, helping to draft these documents from all aspects of rural America. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Now,
it's sense to have elite groups of people draft documents, and then we expect people who are automatically considered to be an underclass or a minority or whatever word you want to use that applies or implies that, you know, we're not on the same level of the mindset that originally created this document, or are we on the same mindset or level of the people who are actually controlling, which are the rich.
Mm-hmm.
You
Okay.
just have to be realistic in stating that.
Right. So, well, let me just be perfectly blunt, Aaron. You know, we don't have to, beat around the bush and read between the lines. We can just be 100% forward. What we're saying is, and I'll let you respond, what we're saying is that we don't need the 1%ers making a document, drafting a document that benefits or has an adverse effect on the other 99%. What you're saying is that the full 100% of rural America, all across from north, south, east, and west, should be sat down at the table, helping to draft a document that reflects the melting pot of America. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
100%.
Okay. Vanessa, do you agree with Aaron's premise?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Pastor Riggins, do you concur with Aaron's contention that we need everybody sitting down at the table representing all aspects of the country as the melting pot?
Oh, yes, sir. Because to reiterate the back of what he's saying, why do you need a gun? First of all, they wanted a gun to control slaves. Second of all, they wanted a gun to keep the Native Americans, keep their land from.
Pastor Riggins, I believe we lost you. What I'm going to do is, it's about...
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we lost you. Go ahead.
Yes, I say, to agree with what Aaron is saying and what Ms. Vanessa said, first of all, when they want to have a gun, you got a reason to have the gun. The first thing was to have the gun to control the slaves. And it was a gun to make sure we took the land from the Native Americans. Then we needed a gun to make sure Jim Crow would stay in place. Now they're saying they need a gun for what? For the terrorists. They always say they need a gun for a reason. So then that means that people of minority or people of other demographics or people of other colors always get one on the other end of the gun. We always go on the other end of the gun, so we got to come to the table so we can get on the right end of the gun. If I put it plainly like that.
Well, I'll tell you, Pastor, that is very profound, and I would venture to say, and this is funny, but what you're saying is that because we are at the wrong end of the gun, at the shooting end, the end where the bullet comes out rather than the end where we shoot the bullet from, that's one of the main reasons why this particular amendment needs to be looked at with all aspects of America.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, Aaron, I know you and Vanessa. I know what you're thinking, but I'm gonna let you respond because Pastor Riggins, as always, with how he chooses to analyze certain things or describe certain things, being at the wrong end of the gun, is that a correct assessment, Aaron?
Yes, sir. I would say so. And one thing I've learned, and I think all of us can, relate to this. When you make something so uncomfortable for somebody, they start second guessing or coming back, find out or figure out if what they say they really need and want is actually what they need and want. Let me use this as an example. When you know it's time to renew your driver's license, you know you need it, but when you get in the line at PMV and you might be there 2 or 3 hours, you start second guessing how important it is at that time. But you know you have to.
Right.
So in a situation like this with guns, I would say this: if people who can prove that they need a gun and it's necessary for them to have, if the process for them to have that gun meant that somebody would come to their house every 90 days, they're gonna have to have the gun inspected. They're gonna have to prove that they use their gun for what they say they use their gun, and they're gonna have to prove that the gun not ever fall into the hands of a child in the home. In other words, totally safe. I guarantee you, Baron, after about 2 or 3 years of that, a lot of people would say, you know what? I don't need this gun, or I don't need to have 6 or 7 guns. I don't need to have, and I definitely don't need to have an assault weapon, because let's go to the assault weapon for a second and say, if a person had to, before they could actually purchase that assault weapon, they had to go through a year's worth of training, supervised training, then at the end of that, a certification, and then every 6 months, not necessarily a full course, but a refresher course. And then they would have to, the amount of money that it would take to license that person to have that kind of weapon, it would be so outlandish, they would come to their senses and say, I don't need no doggone assault weapon. I can't afford to have an assault weapon.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right,
so
right.
Sometimes you have to put things on people to make them really accountable. And I'm telling you, stuff like that would eliminate all of this. I have the right. Yeah, you may have the right, but when you get paid for it, you're gonna think about that right.
Mm-hmm. Right. So once again, Riggins, nobody, unless they specifically stated, is saying that one should not have the right to protect themselves from somebody else or being in harm's way. However, what we're talking about tonight is dispelling the myth that there's this specific reason why you have to have a gun. One of the reasons why was because the slave owner wanted to protect himself from the actual slave itself. So that is one of those things, Vanessa, that has always, in my opinion, based on what I've seen, has been missing in the history books. Now let me kind of switch gears a little, Vanessa, Aaron, and Pastor. Then I'm gonna bring any callers on the line. When we look at history itself here in America, does this country do a disservice to making progress when they specifically and continuously lie about what real history is regarding all of the atrocities that have happened here in this country, and one being the slave owner and the gun being able to protect him or herself from the slave? Go ahead, Vanessa.
Oh my God, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Aaron?
Absolutely,
mm-hmm.
and it's more than a omission, Baron.
You think you think it's intentional?
Absolutely. I mean, just look at the amount of money that's spent on. I use this all the time. Just look at cinema and the type of movies that the movies that have come out in the last 2 or 3 years that totally distort. Where you have, and I've seen it where producers come out after the fact. And they admit to knowing that what they're putting on the big screen is an absolute lie.
Mm-hmm. So you well, let me go back to your comment then, Aaron. You said that the document was flawed, and the people who drafted the document was flawed. So you feel that they had an intent to be very. I'm not going to say discouraging, but very misleading, which makes the outcome be flawed. So it goes back to 1, 2, 3.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So what? I'll say it like this: everybody on the line right now, if one of us desired to have a position of control over the other one, then what would we do? We would omit some of the information that would be available for everybody to come to a decision on what we're trying to come. So that's the MO of this government. It has always been like that.
So Pastor Riggins, being a historian, do we have a government that really does not really care about the well-being of its people?
We have people in the government that don't.
Okay.
In the government that does not. What happens is that, if you remember, the government is three parts: the Congress, the judges, and the president. And for the most part, 2/3 of it always is going to be trying to. If you have a Republican Congress, or a Congress that's with the high and mighty in control, even if you have a Democratic president, but then at the same time, if the judges on the Supreme Court, that's why they were so surprised the Supreme Court kept on upholding Obamacare. They thought it was going to overturn it because why? The Supreme Court was conservative. So you always have 2/3 of the government, I say, or the system is baked in to where they're trying to hide everything from people. Now, someone who overtly, this is why Donald Trump is so dangerous. I'm going to drop him in here. He overtly let you know that if you put me in power, I'm not going to hide it. I'm going to tell you up front what I'm trying to do. And even though we know where he stands, but if they would have control of all control he can have, that part of the government is going to be held to pay for anybody, for the citizens and for the Congress, because he said, do it my way or the highway. And the things he espoused. Now, if he espoused the things of Bernie Sanders and was like that, that'd be good for people. Somebody that espoused things of Bernie Sanders but had the attitude of Donald Trump, then the folk will say, wait, wow, now a president's going to come in and do what he wants to do, but do it for us. But no, he's the opposite. He's all the way on the other end, trying to make the rich high and mighty, trying to make sure that all minorities going to be below everybody's feet. And then he's going to tell the government, the government's going to do it my way or the highway. And so that's the danger of that. Yes, sir.
Well, I'll tell you, Pastor, you are exactly right, and it appears that all of you guys are concurring. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask the engineer to open the lines, and I'm going to pull up a few numbers. If you're out there, callers, I'm going to call out your last 4 digits of your number. If you would like to join in the conversation, you may do so. For or against, or state your position on this particular topic. Tonight's topic, we're talking about how did the Second Amendment come to fruition. We're looking at a history lesson by A.F. Riggins, doing the right thing for the wrong reason. What was the original intent of the Second Amendment? Has America been lying about the Second Amendment? And from a historical point of view, we want to talk about that. So first caller, last 4 digits, 1892. 1892 caller, you got anything you want to say?
That's me, Paula.
Okay, go ahead, Paula.
I don't have a problem with people owning a handgun for personal protection. I have one myself, and I have no problem with people that own guns for hunting or sport. But there is absolutely no reason for people to have an assault weapon. And I'm wondering how the gun manufacturers get those guns to the gun dealers.
Pastor Riggins, you might can answer that question. Pastor Riggins?
Barry, I don't know how to get into the dealers, except that the laws and the laws, they can't prevent them from selling. It's commerce laws. I mean, I'll tell you one thing. Anytime you go to buy a gun, even a hunting gun, if you're trying to do it online or something like that, you got to have the person have a license. It's kind of like a license to sell guns controlled by the AFT, the alcohol, firearms, and tobacco. Listen. Oh, that tells me another whole thing.
Okay.
It's alcohol, firearms, and tobacco. Alcohol, firearms, and tobacco.
Right.
Let's back up. What was the first thing the slaves was the first thing the slaves were planning before they was cotton.
Come on, Pastor.
Go to the wars, the wars with Al Capone and them. What were they doing? Moonshine. So even back then with the Tommy guns and all that kind of stuff, that's what they were going to try to find out. Like, they used that, the AFT, alcohol, fire, and tobacco, to try to control even the gang wars with the moonshine. So it's always been some sinister thing behind the weapons and guns, even if you want to look at it from that point of view.
So there's always an intent to benefit those who originated the document, which Aaron indicated the flawed document. Okay, caller 2333. You got anything you want to chime in on? Caller 2333. Okay, caller 0398, last four digits 0398. Yeah, would you like to chime in? Okay, caller 9818, last four digits.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, I do. I do favor that people should own guns, have the right to own guns. People kill. I mean, people want to kill or use guns to kill. It's not the guns that kills. It's the operator of the gun. The problem is, at the time that the amendment was written, it was for that time, which, of course, it didn't include us, except we were on the other end of it. Mm-hmm. But at today's time, the whole program that needs to be erased, and it needs to be revamped or start over, meaning that they have to have several layers of types of security, meaning if you own a handgun, you definitely still need to be investigated and you still need to qualify. But then when you get into guns on that level where it shoots so many bullets per minute, then that's straight up, FBI stuff that it needs to be, those people need to be looked at on that level. Mm-hmm. And the policy needs to be more stricter, even owning a gun. And if you're on the FBI list, then you don't need to be even trying to be buying a gun on any level.
So caller, do you feel that there are a lot of loopholes that exist, and based on those loopholes, if they were to be minimized, we're not going to ever eliminate all the killings, but we can minimize with common sense. Is that basically what you're saying?
One thing that I do think is when you go to get your driver's license, you have to pass a test. You have to pass a written test. You have to pass a driving test. You are either given your license or you're not. And then there's the youth hunting program where the kids have to go. Now, this doesn't apply to adults. The kids have to go, and they have to learn how to use their guns safely. They have to know how to shoot. They have to know how to handle the gun so that it's never pointed at another human being. I don't understand why. When I got my gun, I had no problem with the background check. I had no problem with it getting registered. I didn't mind that at all. But it seems to me that when someone goes to buy a gun, they should be having to take a course in how to handle that gun, how to shoot that gun, how to maneuver it so that it's never pointed at another human being. And if you're using it for hunting or sport, that you understand how the gun works. And in my case, I went through a lot of target practice. My case is simply personal protection. I lived out in the country alone, and the felt that if there was an intruder that showed up in my bedroom at 3 o'clock in the morning, I have a little 38 that is for close up, and I kept it in my nightstand. So that's why I have one. I have since moved to a place where I feel very safe, and it's in its case in a closet somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need it here.
Mm-hmm.
I have a problem with people that use and say it all the time, that the Second Amendment says that we have the right to bear arms. And they use that over and over and over again to justify owning as many guns as they want, which is, I have no problem with that, like Pastor Riggins said. I think it was Pastor Riggins.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That said he owns several guns for several purposes. I have no problem with that, but I think that there is no place in our society where a person should be able to get a hold of a gun that is used for killing people and killing people on a mass level.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And how that goes from the gun manufacturers to the gun stores to the internet to the black market, I mean, they should not be in the hands of anyone. Now, I don't even think police forces, except for military personnel.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me get to a couple of the callers. Caller 1000. You got any comment that you'd like to chime in? Caller 1000 10000. Okay. Caller 3690. Last four digits 3690. Okay. Aaron. Let me ask you this, because the question just came in via inbox. I am curious how gun manufacturers are regulated. Can they sell them on the black market? And the second part of that question is, and now people can have one of them as long as it's not concealed, correct? Aaron, I'm going to take that to you, and then I'll go to Pastor Riggins, and then we'll open it up for comments.
I want to make a quick comment, and then I want to address that question, Baron. The ATF, Pastor Riggins mentioned, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, which is a segment. It's not necessarily a government entity. It's under the guise of a government entity, but he made an excellent point, and the reason I want to bring it up again is because while Paula was talking, it also struck me. It's very simple when you're thinking about underage people being able to have a gun, just like with a license, just like being able to drink. So if there's regulations on the age that a person is able to drink alcohol, if there's regulations on the age that a person is able to purchase cigarettes, if there's age restrictions on when a person is able to get their driver's license, why in the world would it not make sense to have an age restriction on a firearm?
Mm-hmm.
But we know that some of the same people that own firearms that say, well, I've taught my young, my children how to use a firearm, and when we go out to hunt, okay, that's fine. But we know for a fact, I think it was on Gerald that made the point, and how many of the murders that we're witnessing in the U.S. and all of the inner cities are happening. Now, we know the guns, the black market guns, but let's just say that there was a certain penalty that came with a person underage even being anywhere around a firearm, meaning that a parent would be held responsible even if they have a gun in their home and it winds up in the hands of a minor. That would cut out a lot of that type of cross selection of how people get their hands on guns. But I wanted to make that quick point.
Yeah.
As far as the regulation and how these how a lot of these manufacturers are able to get the guns out or sold. It goes back to what I mentioned from that article the other night, Baron, about, think about this now, a 7 or 8 year old young man or young girl sitting at home playing a video game, now becoming so familiar with an assault weapon via that game, via shows that they watch, whether it's a crime show, whether it's a superhero show where there's still guns and violence in some of these superhero shows that come on. So my point in saying all of that is we have younger people who are they're not just curious about guns and violence. They're in it. They're involved in it on every level.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was, I believe it was Nikki the other night mentioned that she left the movie because there was so much death and violence in the movie in the first 20 minutes that she couldn't see herself allowing her son to see that.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes back again to our own personal conscience. Are we really, and I think we've already answered the question of whether or not the Second Amendment was a lie, and the use of it is being totally misrepresented. So we just have to really ask ourselves the question. When we're talking about weapons and protection, that protection is one thing. It's something totally different from the mind of a person who wants to go out and stalk and or assault a person.
Mm-hmm. Point well taken. Point well taken, Aaron.
I know.
Go ahead.
You got other callers.
No, go ahead. You had something else you wanted to say, Aaron? Because I was going to bring Pat.
No, I was just.
Okay, Pastor Riggins.
Yes, sir.
You had a point you wanted to make?
About something. Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
When Paula was talking, it brought something to mind. She was talking about being able to take the classes. Do you know here in Texas, and Aaron knows this, if I want to have a concealed weapon or open carry weapon, have a license to carry, I have to go through all these classes and training and all this kind of stuff. Sometimes it's not as much as we think it is, but at least it's an attempt to train and to prepare me for the weapon. Think about this: to get your AR-15, you have to do any of that. And that's what I'm concerned about. Matter of fact, here in Texas, they're about to open up a new gun show here in Houston, and they were going to raffle off an AR-15. But because of what happened in Orlando, they decided not to raffle off that AR-15. How do you think they can raffle off an AR-15? Because you don't need a license to own one. But if I'm going to get a handgun and carry it around in Houston, whether it's open or concealed, I need a license to carry it.
So Pastor,
we ought to be able to have you ought to get a license to get an AR-15.
So are you saying that you do have to have a license or you don't?
You don't, not for AR-15.
I
don't have to have one for a pistol. I don't have to have one for a pistol either. I don't have one for a pistol either. But if I want to carry it around, concealed or open, I can have it in my house. I can go to Academy right now and buy one. As long as I pass all this background check, whatever they do, see if I was a felon, blah, blah, and all that kind of stuff, I can bring it to my house. If I want to carry it around in my car or have it on my person or something, I need a license. But just think about that. But AR-15, you're not going to be carrying that around in your car or nothing like that because folks will see you have that carrying around. But so you're going to only bring it out when you can ready to use it on somebody. You ought to have a license to even buy one is what I'm saying.
Right.
A license ought to be licensed to even buy an AR-15 is what I'm saying.
Well, let me ask this question then, Pastor.
Am I correct, Aaron? I don't want to be wrong with my assessment. Am I correct, Aaron, or not?
No, you are correct. And that goes back to what I was saying. See, we're talking about a whole different market for an assault weapon. It starts at an age, in my mind, and I think I'm being reasonable when I say this, in my mind, the last thing I want to hear come from my 5 or 6 year old who's playing a video game is that they know the in and outs of any type of assault weapon, let alone an AR-15. But this is the reality.
They're playing Grand Theft Auto. They're playing Grand Theft Auto, right, which is in its fifth revision now. Right, they're playing that stuff and special ops and that kind of stuff. You know, they got them doing it on desensitizing them. Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Can I say this?
Yeah, go ahead, Vanessa.
To the lady that was asking the question about how, I guess, our guns are dealt. Firearms initially enter the consumer market through gun dealers. who are the critical link between manufacturers and distributors and the general public. Even though all guns that are sold to the public, including guns that end up recovered in crimes, originate with dealers. Dealers are subject to very little federal oversight. Over 53,500 individuals currently have a Type 1 federal firearm license, which allows them to act as firearm dealers. And over 7,700 individuals have a Type 2 license, which allows them to buy and sell guns as pawnbrokers. About 77,000 individuals have other types of federal firearm licenses. And dealer licenses are high in demand because a dealer may purchase unlimited quantities of firearms through the mail at wholesale prices without being subject to a background check or any other state or local waiting period.
That's right. If I became a gun enthusiast and I really like guns, Baron, and she's saying it's right. All I got to do is go out there and not have to be a felon or anything and get me a license to start buying and selling guns. And I can go around to gun shows, or I can do it out of my house, anything. Once I get the license, I mean, I got the money, or I got the overhead to have me a little building. It's on.
Well,
yeah, it's on.
Well, Pastor, once again, go ahead, caller.
I just said, wow, that's kind of deep.
Yeah, exactly. What I'm going to do now, we got about 15 minutes left, Pastor. Anybody that's out there, pros or cons or whatever you want to talk about regarding this Second Amendment, feel free to do so, because once again, this is not mainstream media. We do accept others' opinions, whether we agree or disagree. So any caller that's out there on the line, you can also go to the live link and send me a question. You can message me or inbox or whatever the case may be. But do we have any caller out there who would like to go in another area? I see Nikki is out there now. Nikki, have you been able to jump in on the conversation, or you kind of want to let me give you a little bit more time before you speak? Because tonight we're talking about this gun thing that's going on, the Second Amendment, where everybody's talking about it's a natural right. Pastor Riggins has told us from the historical standpoint exactly how the Second Amendment started. Aaron has indicated that it's a flawed document. Vanessa has agreed that it's a flawed document. The people who drafted it were flawed. Therefore, in 2016, it needs to be a new movement rather than reinvention. We need to start all over again with new people and everybody at the table. Nick, are you ready to jump in?
No, let me listen. I just tuned in right now, Baron.
Okay. Any callers out there who want to chime in, go ahead. Any caller.
This is Paula.
Go ahead, Paula.
I think that it should be ratified. And when Obama came on television and said that the gun laws needed to be changed, I heard comments from people that the government wants to come and take all our guns. Well, that's not true. There need to be regulations on the types of guns that are sold. And I think that the AR-15 should be a type of gun that is not sold. There are guns that can be modified to shoot large clips, like up to 30 at a time. And that needs to be changed. Needs to be changed so that you can only shoot, I don't know, a few at a time. If you can't hit a deer with one or two shots, you need to practice.
Pastor Riggins, deer hunter, let me talk to him.
What do you say?
I said, talk to me. Paula contention is that if you're a deer hunter and you can't hit that deer in one or two shots, then perhaps you need to be going to target practice.
No. If you miss with the first shot, he's gone. Miss on the first shot is gone anyway.
Okay.
If you miss on the first shot, all that stuff is stupid because you miss on the first shot is gone anyway. Go out there on a deer, even if you have a regular clip that have 4 or 5 in there, you already know you're gonna come on with if it's 4, then you're gonna come on with 3, or if it's 5, it's gonna come on with 4. Because if you
you're going to hit or miss, because that deer, you miss that deer. Even when you hit a deer, it's going to still run sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you shoot that deer and miss, it's gone. It's through. It's over with.
So Riggins,
that's over with.
So anybody that's out there listening, what would you propose to them as to how they can make direct contact with their legislator, be that senator or congressman, and tell them that, you know, it's time to come to the table before America end up meeting its demise with, because I feel like Nick had stated the other night that other countries, she being from Scotland, you know, we're just a laughing stock of what's going on. What do you think, Pastor? Pastor Riggins, are you on mute? Maybe,
I don't know why you can't hear me.
We're having difficulties hearing you.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
It's gerrymandered.
Uh-huh.
You know, the daughter districts would have so many congressmen from the rural suburbs who espoused all this stuff, and because they espoused into it that way, you got to try to call. You know, for Sheila Jackson Lee, there might be 3 or 4 congressmen that the rural areas in this area to one congresswoman, Sheila Jackson Lee, was in hood, and so they're outnumbered. The rural people, rural congressmen and those that are espousing all this outnumber those that will be against it. And that's what part of gerrymandering is doing. Gerrymandering is more than just getting more Republicans in the House. It's everything that goes with it. All the decisions they make, all the control they have. Because it's gerrymandered, it's hard to. So we can call our congressmen, but what about all those guys out there that want to carry those guns? They don't call their congressmen and say no. NRA says no. Uh-huh. And that's where we have the problem at. Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. So,
the people up there in Louisiana and up there, those guys that make the big deers, what they call duck what?
Duck Dynasty?
You know, the Duck Dynasty, all them, yeah. Duck Dynasty, all them outnumber us, man.
So,
with the congressman now.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that money still is buying politics?
Yes, sir, right. And the gerrymandering, which is unfair. I don't know how we're going to ever be able to undo gerrymandering. Mm-hmm. I don't know how we're ever undo that, but that has to be undone.
Right, so...
That's because somebody got to sue in the Supreme Court to get it undone.
So you think the deck...
Sue in the Supreme Court.
You think the deck is still stacked?
Yes, sir, in the House of Representatives.
Mm-hmm. So...
They would have a filibuster. The Senate, they would have a filibuster and make them vote because you have 2 senators for every state. That's equal.
Mm-hmm.
The House of Representatives, you got Texas with 36 Congress people, and a lot of them are gerrymandered districts. So California is the other way, you know, 54, but most of them are Democrats, but in Texas, most of them are Republicans.
So Pastor, are you saying that from day one, all of this stuff is just rigged and flawed, and until the demise of this particular thing, this particular place we live in called the USA, we're going to always have this crooked road that we have to travel?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You give it a dime. Yes, sir. It's basically there's going to be a line. It's a long hill to climb. It's like, look how long it took to end slavery.
Uh-huh.
Then after the end of slavery, it took 100 years to get the right to the 14th and 15th Amendment, and we're still suffering some stuff.
Well, you know...
100 years before that happened. You and I be dead and gone. If America's still here, then it might happen.
Right. Well, you know, 151-year anniversary is coming up on June the 19th for, those, Juneteenth, known in the Negro world. So again, if we're dealing with this crooked road, this crooked path that we have to go down, then, Pastor, I'm not sure. Well, if we don't prepare our generation, which are the millennials, if we don't prepare them, then how can they go forward to even continue to fight? Somebody can answer that.
Well, that's why we have these shows. What you're doing right now is very important, even though it's on internet radio and it's alternative media. What we're doing right now has to get out in the mainstream. We have to have more people like you and I and Aaron and Paula and Vanessa going out visiting the schools, find a way to have like 10 or 15 minutes after school program to kind of slip this kind of stuff in the kids and talk and educate the youth. Go to the churches. Churches have programs that do this kind of stuff. That's what I do with my churches. I have programs that do this kind of stuff. Get in the community, the Shape Center, YMCA, listeners, whatever stuff. And teach the young folks the stuff that the government is not teaching, what the media is not teaching them. Take some of that 30 minutes a day from those games that they play, shoot up everybody, and talk to them about real life stuff like this.
Because Riggins, I've had several, messages that started out like, wow, I didn't know this. Wow, why weren't we taught this in school? Wow, the school that I went to, they never taught this. So, I mean, when you start looking at this stuff from a historical standpoint, if we in the community, if we are self-appointed, even if it's that case, leaders, then I think it's incumbent upon us to start exactly what you're saying. And we don't have to have an air-conditioned building. We don't have to have a heated building because they did it back in the 60s. They did it in the civil rights era. They met and they negotiated and they strategically planned how to do and create the Montgomery bus boycott, which we know it was very successful. It took 300 some odd days, but it was successful. So why is it that we can't join hands with our brothers and sisters, male, female, black, white, whatever the case may be, from whatever part of the globe, if we have that common interest, which is to make a difference and allow this place we call America to be a better living place? Why can't we do that? And I'll throw that out to anybody.
Yes, sir. We've got caught up in the materialistic things. Got caught up in that we finally got a way to be able to get some of the capitalism. See, we get caught up in the capitalism of America. Forget about the freedom that we need to have in America. And I'll say this now. I quit talking. If I teach what I taught tonight in my classroom, and they found out I taught that in my classroom, they're gonna write me up. That's the problem. Wow. If I teach what I taught tonight, I teach history. I teach the Second Amendment every year. But when I teach it, all we have to tell the kids is no for the test to write the bear run. Some of the teachers don't even know how to teach it. They put an actual bear, with a gun and say, remember this, the bear arms, and the kids get it right on the test without telling what it's all about. That's all. So they just teach the principle of it and never teach you what it's all about.
Riggins, you joking to me, right?
You got to follow that. Yes, sir.
You joking, right?
And that's how bear is written.
Go ahead, Colin, then I'll bring you in, Aaron. Go ahead.
And that is how history is written. See, they teach us about history, and about who did this and that and the other, but they don't teach us the true politics of history. See, it's just like our Civil War between the North and the South. When they went to war, they had to come up with a reason to go to war. And was it Industrial Revolution? Number two, was it to free black people? That was the cost of the takeover. They were fighting over the purse of this whole thing. The South was stronger than the North financially. So it was a struggle, and it's all about the purse. But remember, they had to come up with a reason. So guess who was standing out there? Mr. Black Man himself. That was one of the best reasons to fight a war anyway.
Wow. Aaron, I know you want to jump in on that.
He actually, Barrett, I respect his comment, but I would be remiss, man, if I didn't address, since we're talking about gun violence and we're talking about the things or the legalities that should allow people to have the right or the right to own the firearm. So in the beginning, when I mentioned the flaw of the document, which to me, what's more important is the flaws in the individuals who have to execute the document. So you posted the information about the young man in Georgia who was, in his mind and in the mind of myself and probably everybody else, was doing the same thing that George Zimmerman claimed he was doing with Trayvon Martin, which was standing his ground. So here, a young black man who has a firearm, surrounded by 4 individuals, a judge rules that he was not standing his ground and he was not in fear of his life because the gun went off on accident. So clearly, again, what I'm saying comes true all the time. This is one that is reported, but I'm telling you it happens all the time. So
Yes.
the execution of the law is not the same when it comes to black and white. Never has been, and it won't be under the same mentality. If that same mentality exists, Pastor Riggins, I'm just simply saying a ratification, an amendment, it will not change that mind.
Well, I'll tell you what, boy. We got about...
Zimmerman walk
Yes, sir. And this young gentleman...
based on the Second Amendment.
Yes, sir. George Zimmerman walked by saying that he had fear for his life and the discharge of the firearm to kill an innocent individual. He was able to walk free. We got about 3 minutes left. I have to do this. As always, Pastor Riggins, I have to tell you, buddy, let me just tell you this publicly. Okay, Pastor. I always have to give you credit. You are good at what you do. And I want to let you know that I appreciate everything that you do, everything that's asked of you. You always come out, you and Dave Lamont from Screens from the Center, Nikki, Paula, Aaron Hopkins. We've been rolling for 3 years now. We're steady keeping this thing going. All of those out there who are listening tonight, we've been talking about the Second Amendment, a history lesson, doing the right thing with the wrong person, Glassology 101 with Pastor A.F. Riggins. We also talked about how did the Second Amendment come to fruition. What was its intention? Has America been lying about the Second Amendment from historical and historian point of view? Now, those who are out there listening on the blog, hopefully you'll share it. You can go back and listen to the archives. You can listen on TuneIn. You can listen on iTunes. You can listen on Spreaker.com. You can go to the main website, www.thesmokingglasshour.com. If you got a topic out there that you'd like to discuss, or if you'd like to host your own show, all you have to do is contact us, make connection, and we will do it. Make sure you check out my good buddy from Colorado who is not on with us tonight, Dave Lamont, Screens from the Center on Wednesday nights. Make sure you check out my good friend, my good colleague, my good classmate, and my good spiritual advisor, Pastor A.F. Riggins, Senior Pastor, founder of Real Life Church out of Houston, Texas. You can catch him on Real People, Real Life, Real Answers on Wednesday night. You can catch him on Wrap It Up Live on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, and Real People, Real Life, Real Answers at 7 o'clock right over there at Blog Talk USA, which we all do the same thing. We tell a neighbor, tell a friend that we are, in fact, on the move in 2016. I'm going to say good night to everybody, and may the good Lord see you through to tomorrow, which is Friday, June the 17th. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Darren.
Good night.